If you are a nutrition coach or looking to get into nutrition coaching, I know the number one thing you want for your clients is amazing results. That's why you got into this, is to help them do things that they couldn't do on their own. It's really, really important for you to be able to deliver on those results as a nutrition coach. I would say that where 90% of nutrition coaches go wrong when they're not delivering on results is that they don't have that optimized, dialed in weekly nutrition coaching check in. It's not organized. They're not asking the right questions. They're not responding in the right way. There's no boundaries. There's no expectations. Everything is all over the place, which is why today I'm going to show you how to dial it in. I'm going to give you a bunch of helpful suggestions to nail your nutrition coaching process when it comes to the weekly check-ins, what questions to ask, my favorite questions, how to respond, how to package it all together so that it's professional and organized and something that you can be really proud of. We're going to go over all of that today. If you have any questions about this process as we dig into things here, drop them in the chat. I'm happy to hear from you. I want to make this process as as iterative as possible. So fill me in, let me know. We can go back and forth too as well. Before we get into the actual contents of our discussion today too, enrollment is open for the Dr. Mark Method. If you want the quickest path to success as a nutrition coach, absolutely everything you need to get started, access to me and my team as we walk you through everything step by step in a program that will help you get paying clients. We have a track record for success around this stuff. Like, you will not only take your passion and turn it into a business, but you'll make money doing it. You'll know exactly what you need to be doing. Enrollment for our program is open right now. It's a 90-day certification. It's world-class. I'm going to drop the actual program page in the chat here if you haven't had a chance to check it out. If you're watching the replay, make sure to go to the first link in the description below and you can check it out as well. Without further ado though, you guys have any questions before we get started? If you're just tuning in for the first time here, we're going to be going over nutrition coaching check-ins and what you need to have set up and what that looks like. I think the first place where you got to really start as you're onboarding a new client, and this could be someone, when we talk about a new client and stuff, this could be someone that you're helping, maybe not in an official paid capacity, but you're getting your nutrition coaching going. You still want to have the same set of expectations as you would with someone that is a paying client, an official client, that kind of thing. Because the more professional you can make it, the more organized you can make it, the more likely you are to attract other clients just like it. And you'll have a system in place so that you can actually take on more clients and grow your business, right? That's the most important thing. It's one thing, if you had 5 people come to you this week, would you know exactly where to put them and what to say? These are the sort of systems that we're starting to build out as we start and grow our nutrition coaching. So as we onboard a client, the first thing we want to do is put them on an actual check-in day. We're doing this video today on Monday. I wanted to talk about this topic today on a Monday because it is really common for most nutrition coaches to have their coaching check-ins at the beginning of the week, late Sunday, early Monday, that type of thing, so that their client can, start to prepare themselves for the week. It's a natural start of the week. Makes complete sense, right? There's probably, some advantages to doing it earlier before maybe someone gets groceries, but they don't need to buy all new groceries as they get a coaching check-in, right? Things aren't going to change all that much, but they need to know exactly when they should check in, what they're going to be doing, what they're going to be filling out, where to find that information, where is it accessible, what it looks like to do a check-in. You probably want to have an example of you going through the actual process. For many coaches, and this is the process that we teach in the Dr. Mark Method as well, a check-in is going to have a combination of collecting and submitting some actual data. Most of the time, these are like body weight averages, average, a food log of calories and macronutrients on a daily basis. So we can take a look at averages and compare how close they are to their actual food targets, and being prescriptive on that basis. So we can compare that stuff. We can measure adherence. We can see how things look. We want to collect all that information: water intake, fiber, maybe daily steps, depending on what your client's goals are, that type of stuff. We want to collect some data. We typically do that in a shared sheet. If you've never seen my tracking sheet at all, over 5,000 nutrition coaches have downloaded it, are using it. You can maybe drop the words like tracking in the comment in the chat, and I'll make sure it gets over to you, that type of thing, if you haven't checked that out yet. But you want to collect some objective information, some stats, so you can take a look at it, right? The more prescriptive you can be, the easier it is to coach someone, right? But that's what we're taking a look at there. We also want some subjective information. We want some answers on how well the actual week went. Beautiful Mess Production says, just found you. I'm a new nutritional coach and getting started today. Need help with how to set up the Google Docs for client check-ins. Any suggestions? Amazing. Check this out right now. I'm going to drop a link in the chat for you to check out my actual tracking sheet and the check-in form, which I'm right about to talk about, for you to get instant access to those resources. Check those out, and we'll go from there. There's a quicker way to get this going too, which is our actual program. If you want any more information on that, check the chat as well. But outside of that, we also want to collect some information in a form as well, in terms of, how did the week went? Like what were some wins? What were some things that could be improved on? We want to make sure that we give them an opportunity to tell us what went well, because many people won't, right? That's just human nature. The people that are doing and going down this process have a tendency to be really hard on themselves. But chances are, even if they checked in, that in itself is a win, right? That's something that went well. That's something that, is an improvement without a doubt, right? So it's one of those things where, give them an opportunity to tell you what went well, what needs some improvement, other things that you should know. There's nothing worse than, and as we talk about this check-in process, creating a response to the check-in in terms of what you're adjusting, what are some action steps, what are some things to work on, to go through that entire process, and just to realize that there's something else that you needed to prepare for, to adjust for, to accommodate, to factor in. If you ask that question in advance and collect that information, you can get ahead of that stuff, right? You can start to work on that stuff as you start to think about how you'll respond. So we want to give them opportunity to fill us in what went well, what needs work, how are things feeling in terms of a sliding scale around, hunger levels, energy levels, any performance tangibles, type of stuff that you're collecting. We want to get a sense of how all that stuff went well, so that when we sit down to do the actual check-in, everything's in front of us and we can respond, and we can start to, craft our response in terms of what we're going to change or not change and what the client needs to do. So we want that in place, and we want the client to know exactly where to find that, how to access it. Everything's all in one localized place. They need to know when they have to have it submitted by, when you'll respond to them, what that process will look like. The clearer we can get around those expectations, the more dialed in this process will be, and the better. I got another comment here. Raul's Mora Fit is, hey, Dr. Mark, love your live stream. So I'm a fitness coach and I implement nutrition coaching into my program, though my check-in form is within the training app itself. Of course, I include some nutrition. Amazing. Really, really happy to hear that. I think the biggest thing is just making sure that you have that process, within maybe where the client knows where to access this stuff, same place that they're getting their training program, the same place that maybe they're filling you in on their training as well as their nutrition at the exact same time. You have that sort of hybrid service. That's the best of both worlds. So really happy to hear that you're already doing that stuff. And thanks for tuning into the live stream here, because I love doing these. I love chatting with you guys. So we have clear expectations around where to find this stuff, what it would look like, as well as the link is not working. Let me pull it. I'll pull it up here. Just give me a second. Bit.ly should be DRMM/tracking. Let me copy this. This one will work as well. Let me know if that does not work. Questions like, how do you feel about the amount of food you're eating, energy levels? But I don't really ask them to log their macros or weight. I just check in it out the training app. I just check it out in the training app, or should I ask for that? Them to log their food in the tracking sheet like yours. I usually just first check their macros, then I jump into the form itself. I like to collect the information just because I like the way it's organized on a week by week basis, and easier for me to talk over. We're going to talk about how to respond to these check-ins in a second, and I feel like being able to look at everything on a week by week, like day by day basis over the course of the week, is much easier to communicate how things went as you're pointing stuff out than going through like things day by day. Um, which might be a good opportunity for us to segue into the actual like how to respond check-in process. So once they have this information submitted, what I'm looking for is, as I'm going through this stuff, if you ask the right questions, you shouldn't be reading through like walls of text, right? Like that's not your job, is to read through like this overly descriptive thing. If you ask the right questions and collected the right information so that it's all right in front of you, you really want it to be like more or less, it's almost like them self-coaching, and everything's explicit in terms of like how things went, where things are going, what needs to change, that kind of stuff, so that you can, as you read through it, think about what's different here. Were there any results that I need to um, point out or be aware of? How well was adherence in terms of how well did they stick to their plan? How are like, some of these metrics, just like you had, described, how are those changing in terms of how are they like their hunger levels? Are they experiencing any changes in energy or digestion and that type of stuff? Anything that I need to know of? And then, what adjustments am I making? In many cases, um, in many cases, you're not making any changes. For the most part, you're just reassuring them, that they're on the right track and things are moving in the right direction. Um, but within those food levels, maybe you're suggesting something different. Food levels stay the same, but you really got to work on your protein. Here's what I'm thinking in terms of, you really described, preparation being an issue, or having some like, fatigue around similar meals and that type of stuff. Let's come up with some different meal prep strategies, those type of things, and expressing that stuff. Or you're making some food adjustments, a 5 to 10% calorie change, an addition or a drop, depending on what their goals are. Most of the times, those are coming from carbohydrates and fat. The main benefit of being prescriptive around those food levels is that you can make adjustments, right? You're no longer, you're saying like, here's what they should be like. Ideally, you track within, plus or minus 10 grams of those for protein and carbs, maybe a little bit tighter for fat, so that we can measure adherence and kind of go from there. But this is what the food levels would need to look like, and kind of go from there. And then when you base those food levels, this is not really about checking in, but when you base those food levels as a combination of where they should be optimally based on what the science says and what they're currently doing now, they don't need a complete overhaul, right? They just need, to find some middle ground, and they're moving their habits and their food skills and their food intake in the right direction of optimal, just based on what they're currently doing. It's not like, hey, I got to go out and get new groceries, that type of thing. But then, okay, so we're thinking, here are the changes I need to make, how I personally would respond. And if you guys are new around here and never heard about the hybrid check-in process that we teach in the Dr. Mark method, we want a combination of video-based check-in with a paper trail describing the changes that you're making. Nothing's live. You shouldn't check in with your clients live. They don't want it. They don't need it. There's more effective ways of doing this to save everyone a meeting, the scheduling, energy around working something else in, travel potentially if you want to do this stuff in person. Even when I worked with 100 plus clients, many of which I knew as real live humans in my geographical area, I'd still do everything online in terms of the actual correspondence would be online. So I would respond in this way that was like, um, hey, Bobby, thanks so much for checking in. I reviewed everything. Check out this video here. The video would be a Loom video going over me talking over the tracking sheet and their check-in form and what I'm seeing, highlighting some positives, highlighting some areas for opportunity, giving them the changes that are required or 1 to 2 action steps to work on, and then going from there. right? In terms of this is what I would see, this is what I would need to change, go from there. I'd insert that video. I would copy and paste the changes that I was making and, write them out so I don't have to rewatch my videos on a weekly basis. And I have that, that paper trail, and then kind of go from there. And then there would be like a bit of back and forth around, how does this feel? Do you agree? Is there anything else that, you would rather work on, or you feel like would be more in line with what you need to be doing? That's the kind of stuff that I would be working on around this check-in process. So in terms of, and then we'd go from there. And then the process would repeat itself on a weekly basis around the same day. I know that some of you guys have had some questions around like, well, how far, how much back and forth are you doing? How much correspondence are you having outside of that? If you really nail the organization at that weekly check-in, and cover most of the things that someone needs to be doing and address their questions, it doesn't need to go on throughout the week. You don't need more touch points. To me, that isn't more effective coaching if you can, have everything all in one place and already done with. Beautiful Mess Production says, I really appreciate you being here for us coaches, and I'm loving the live streams, loving the new improved ways you're bringing to the forefront. Question, since we are not allowed to give meal plans. Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't. I think the question is probably coming here in a second, but you can always give, suggested meal structure, suggested meal plan. What you don't want to do is be explicitly telling someone this is exactly how you need to eat. You should be teaching them how to eat. And the best way to do that is being prescriptive around overall food levels based on what they're currently doing and what they need to do to improve. And then making suggestions within that stuff to shore up the right habits to allow them to fill that structure, or being creative on specific meals, if they want some inspiration, but without being too explicit. I usually do videos showing grocery hauls and do customized lists. Should I keep doing this unique approach? I don't mind customized lists. I think I think it's probably most effective for everyone for you to work on that stuff together with the client in terms of like, how do you currently eat? What do you currently look like? What are your favorite meals? Let's optimize those within this daily structure for best results, and then go from there. But there's no reason why. The biggest thing from a liability perspective that you don't want to find yourself in is like being so explicit around what someone should eat, right? Like, here's the grocery list, you only eat that, because if there is a health issue or health concern that stems from that, it could be because of you told someone exactly what to do, as opposed to, here's some suggestions, here's how I think you should be eating based on your goals, let me help you get there. You're not being as direct, and you're going to limit your involvement in the process while still providing a service that delivers on results. Dr. Mark, how do the tracking sheet work? So clients go through their app, they check their macros for the whole week as well as their wheat and write them down on the tracking sheet. Absolutely. There's some tracking apps where you can set up on a Google Sheet, have everything synced. Macros First does that. But if someone using something like MyFitnessPal or Chronometer, they could just take their daily logs and enter it and manually transcribe it on the sheet would be the first thing. I personally, some people see it as a pro, some people see it as a con. I think that's a good thing for someone to reflect on their week and go over things and like, hey, actually, that was kind of weird. What happened there? That type of stuff. I don't think that's wasted energy by any means, but it does add in some redundancy. But that's how I would navigate the sheet. Brinia Kid says, how do you build credibility when you're just starting out? You've never had a client before. Great question. Number one is you lean into your own experience, and you really, I would say, really try to embody the role model expert, which means you don't know everything. You're by no means an expert, but you're one step ahead of the people that you're trying to serve, that you're going to be working with, that type of stuff. So to me, it's like you come off, in my experience, here's how I would navigate this. In my experience, here's how I fix this. In my experience, here's the result that I got. You can use your own story and build on that and then go from there. That's authentic and in line with that type of stuff. If you've never had an actual client and you're thinking about testimonial content, number one, you don't make it up, but you could also speak to the hypothetical scenario of like what would happen with a client, right? In my experience, women over 40 that are, having a hard time losing belly fat, they should focus on this. It's like you still spelled out who this person was and what they could be going through, but you weren't like, my client did this, my client did that. You could go down that path as well. There's definitely there's some careers where you can't talk explicitly about who those people are, and that's a workaround that they use. But I'd really lean into your own experience, um, because I mean, people just want to know that you can get results, and using yourself as a testimonial, as the case study, as the person that they're following in this journey. There's no reason why you can't do that as well. Let me know if that's helpful, Brynja. I would just think about being the role model expert, which means you're just one step ahead of those people. And for many of the students that I teach, that's the most like authentic way to go about this. If you guys are digging the answers and then you're enjoying the chat here, make sure to hit that like button. Leave a comment. If you're watching the replay, everything helps the channel grow and allows me to share more of this stuff, which is always fantastic. If you're looking for Beautiful Mess Productions says, perfect, thank you. I'll do the simple grocery guides and keep posting my meals and food recipes for inspiration, since I was able to be out having multiple health issues years ago. Absolutely. I think that's the biggest. And the other thing is, like, if you're helping people do that stuff now as well, you could always say like, here's a meal that I give to all my fat loss clients. Here's one meal that helped me beat pre-diabetes, that kind of stuff. Like I said, it's still good to give examples and give them an idea of what things would look like without having your coaching having to be like, so you need to eat this way, if that makes sense. That's the best of both worlds. And then keep in mind, and this is something that we teach in the program as well, there's a big difference between how you market your coaching and what you do in your actual coaching. There's similarities there for sure, but there's also significant differences. In our marketing, we can give an idea of like what it would look like to work with us. And that can be, an idea of how they'll be eating and what that would look like, and focused on the result and that kind of stuff. And the coaching aspect can look different. It can be more or less like, meeting them where they're at and what they're actually doing and making changes within that. It doesn't need to be the same thing, if that makes sense. Okay, what other questions you guys got? I'm going to wrap up in a few minutes here. If you haven't checked out the program at all, it would be the most profitable 90 days you've spent in your entire life. And I feel very confident about that. I have tons of conviction around that, just because I've seen how well our actual methods work, how well, in terms of the mentorship and guidance, and being able to speak with me and Coach Meredith, Coach Josie, Coach Shobana on a weekly basis within our certification program. It's definitely something that, be it if it's your first cert, you're just getting started, or this is something where you're really looking to level up your business, we'll meet you where you're at and get you where you're going. Make sure to check out that actual link that I dropped in the program or in the chat here, and we'll go from there. Any other questions today's guys? Let me know if there's anything else and we'll go from there. But I really love these office hours. Enrollment in our program is going to close next week. I'm going to be making a big push here and chatting with more of you guys on these live streams. So if there's any questions that you want answered, there's things that you want to address, there's things that you're curious about, what that would look like to grow your business, social media strategies, email-based stuff, here on YouTube, thinking about YouTube content. If there's anything specifically you want me to chat about, let's do it. Beautiful Mess Production says, since I'm starting out with no clients, I was told to start a free 30-day online coaching to kickstart my business, even though I'm not profiting yet. A free challenge could be good. I would probably not change anything, I was told to start a free 30-day online coaching, like giving someone a free month of your service. You definitely could go about it that way. I'd probably suggest that you just offer them like the first month free and be really clear on the expectations. It's like, hey, you're curious about this stuff. I want to work with you. I know I can help you. Why don't we do this? Why don't we spend the next 30 days? I'll work with you as a client. This is typically something that I charge. I would be explicit about that part, that I charge $200 per month for, but I'm going to pay for the next month. And then, after that month, if you're loving the service, you're enjoying the results, you're hungry for more, we can chat about what that would look like. That's probably how I do it with a handful of people to get some experience. That's not a bad way of doing things. We do something similar with our test clients within the program. I have another question. How can I make my honorary process as clear as possible from what I'm expecting from my clients regarding nutrition? Just put yourself in your client's shoes and think about, if I was the client here, would I know exactly what I need to be doing with my nutrition, and start to spill that out. And then from there, I would just personally, as the coach, start to build systems around, here's what I say here. This is what this looks like. This is where this can be found, that type of stuff, so that you have everything all in one place and then go from there would be the biggest thing. But I think one of the best exercises you can do is put yourself in your client's shoes and think about, is everything super clear here around what I need to be doing? That's a process that we do to reverse engineer everything all the time. Outside of that, guys, you're going to have to tune in for more live streams this week. I got to pop off. Make sure to join me throughout the week. We'll have them at different times. Stay tuned to your emails and I'll let you know when I'm going to go live, and then we'll go from there. Outside of that, guys, check out that link. Get on a call with me about the program. Let's chat about where you're at and what's next for you, okay? Take care, guys. Have a good day.